Amen. So I'd like to introduce with our friend here at church and compadre Dustin Von Warnicki.
Thank you guys very much. The food was delicious. Thank you guys. That was great. I want to thank you guys so much for the potluck and for inviting me here to speak. And this is a humble honor of mine to be able to and I'm humbly grateful for you guys for having me as part of your meeting here. Basically, I am going to be running my own slides behind the scenes here, so bear with me as I, wear many hats. But I have them here on my iPad too, so I don't have to look up at the screen the whole time, which is cool. So as Larry said in my bio, I'm humble about all my accomplishments because I believe they've all been a blessing from God. That I'm just like over ambitious, I guess is the best way to look at it. And one of the things that I do, I'll get into, but I'm trying to offer purpose, meaning, significance, and controlling the controllables in your life. That's what I'm trying to offer to people through the book that I wrote, and my latest book, and all that fun stuff. So, educating and inspiring with a message of hope and inspiration, and leaving a Christian legacy is my goal. There we go. All right, so up here, as Larry mentioned, the Intentional Optimized Life is my latest book. I've got copies for sale on the back, and basically they'll be $10. They're normally, I think, $14 or $15 on Amazon, but you can get the Kindle version on Amazon for pretty inexpensive. And I did all the mock-ups and covers and everything myself over the years. But my first books from 2013, the books from college, I've pretty much revisited in the books that I've written now. And basically, the Intentional Optimized Life is kind of a playoff of my first book that I wrote in 2001 when I was at Texas Lutheran University. And I actually have a portion of that book I was going to read to you real quick. This is called A Prayer for Thanksgiving and Empowerment. Thank you, God, for all that I have had, for all that I have now, and for all that I shall have in the future. I realize that it is by your grace and mercy, not by luck or chance, that I am blessed beyond measure. This is a unique day that you have made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it, no matter what odds I face. I pray for your light to shine in the darkness of this world. May I be a beacon of hope in all that I do by your will and plan. In Jesus' holy and eternal name, I pray this.
Amen.
Thank you. So one of the things that I do, I'll transition. I also build websites. I work on Christ Lutheran's website. Some of you guys know that, some of you guys may not. But I also work for some outdoor industry websites and some outdoor organization websites that I do. And that's just one of the things that I enjoy doing. I had a podcast called The Best of the Outdoors for Texas Fish and Game Magazine. It was listed as the top 25 podcast for top 25 outdoor podcast for a while. And I've also produced TV shows for Pride Outdoor Network, and then since then I've moved into Gen 7 Outdoors, which is another network. And this is where we were in Pride with all the different TV shows and everything. Ours was ranked in the top 10 or to the top 15 shows of all the different TV shows that were on the network, and there were over 50. So I was really proud of that. So anyway, there's my thing there. Next up is where I am now is Gen 7 Outdoors. It's another Christian-based outdoor network, and there's a lot of fun stuff that I do on that. I teach a lot of stuff through what I do on the outdoors. I try to give motivation to people to go out and have their, my podcast was called The Best of the Outdoors. I want everybody to go out and have the best of the outdoors. That was my whole message with the podcast that I had. So part of my time, as Larry mentioned in my bio, was working with Texas Fish and Game Magazine, and I'll show you some pictures of that. This right up here, the guy with the crazy zebra headband is Chester Moore. He's the editor and publisher of Texas Fish and Game, and is one of my best friends. He has a book out called Higher Calling, which is about his network in the outdoors and what he's done over the ministry of his 30 years in publishing and outdoor writing and everything like that. There in the middle And that picture in the upper left-hand corner is Cal Gonzalez. We lost him to complications of diabetes a couple of years ago, but he was a heck of a guy, and I really, really miss him. He was our saltwater editor. And we would do podcasts, the three of us together. We would call it just Mad Horizons, just mad. It was crazy. We would just have so much fun together doing podcasts together. So rode for Lakes and Bays, rode for Texas Fish and Game, and just give me a little bit of information about me before we get into the good stuff. One of the books that Chester wrote is called Hog Wild. Jackson actually got him aboard one time, and he got an autographed copy from Chester. You can see Chester's a big-time Christian like we are. Signed the book and gave him a certificate for the Boers Foundation that he found about helping the Boers of America record system is what it stands for. And basically it's to help conservation and basically helping with the hog population problem that we have in America today, especially in Texas. So that's my son Jackson. Best thing I've ever done with my life is be a dad. And next up here is my work with Crosswater Outfitters. That's the fishing ministry that I met the gentleman that I'm going to introduce here in a second on video. And Crosswater Outfitters is a ministry that started back, I think, in 2007, 2009, something like that, to minister to soldiers that basically were going through a transition out of the military or in the middle of the military. And they were basically, going through transition in time. And so I do a devotion at that called The New Normal. I'm going to give a brief presentation of what the new normal is here during my talk here. I'm just giving you some basic background of what I did. And there's Jackson with one of the little soldier's little daughters, and me with the boat, and then me receiving an award from Terry Tubbs, is one of the co-founders of Crosswater Outfitters, that was awarded from Fort Hood to the organization that they awarded to me, and I was very grateful for that. So, but at Crosswater Outfitters, I met Steve Gardapi, who is a really good friend of mine, and is a man that had a Vietnam near-death experience, and I'm going to present that here in a minute. His presentation of that at one of our events that I recorded. That video has got over 1.7 million views now that I'm going to show you a brief clip of. And this is great. So what we're going to get into is what I teach at the Crosswater Outfitters event. And I just gave this talk back in April. I was gone a Sunday and basically talked to the soldiers that were coming in through the Soldiers Recovery Unit. We also work for the Warriors in Transition Brigade, or the Warriors in Transition Unit, on Fort Hood at Galora, which is Dalton Lake outdoor recreation area. And basically, that's a lot of fun. I enjoy giving this speech. But new normals. We've all had new normals. Would you agree? Especially in this age group, yes. Okay. Life throws you a curve ball. That's right. All right. Life throws you a curveball. So this started with the situation that the guy took this over from, John Tubbs. Him and his wife were in Africa somewhere at a natural disaster spot. It was just awful. It was just crazy, and they were trying to get relief to the right people and everything like that. And the director said, "We want to get these people's life back to normal." And John's wife said, "There is no going back to normal. They're going to have to step into a new normal. Their houses are gone. All right, their dwellings and everything are gone. They're living in abject poverty. This is going to have to be a new normal." So when we go through our lives, we basically, think things like, okay, if things went this way, I should have done this. If things went this way, I would have done that, and we second guess ourselves. Pretty much, we have should all over ourselves before we're done with it, okay? We've should everywhere, all right? That's supposed to be funny. Y'all are laughing. All right? My soldiers laugh at that. All right. So the should. So we don't go finding new normals; they find us. That's the point of this. So the first new normal of life is 3 steps in handling new normals. And the first step is to accept it. Accept what is. It is what it is. You can't control what just happened in a lot of cases. Either you control the situation or the situation controls you. Correct. All right? So accept it. All right? Accepting what is. All right? Living in what is. That's a lot of what I teach. Step number 2 is harvest the best. All right? There is something good happening inside every storm cloud. Receive the lesson and deal with it. See the opportunity in what you're dealing with. Okay? See the opportunity in the new normal. of whatever that is in your life. Okay? And harvest the best comes with the next slide, which I really like. Forget and forgive the rest. Right? So when we start off with this, we say, harvest the best, forgive the rest. So let's say that together. Harvest the best, forget the rest. Harvest the best, forget the rest. You can remember that, all right? And when new normals happen to me, because I've had a bunch of them here lately, and I've had a bunch of curveballs thrown at me, I normally say, instead of losing my temper, losing my cool, and getting all upset and everything like that, I say something, and Gina's heard this before. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Say that with me. Isn't that interesting? Diffuses the situation, right? The whole point of life is just to go through life not necessarily grateful for every single thing you have, but just to be grateful. Just to be grateful for whatever circumstance you're in and what the lesson is in that circumstance. And they're not always pleasant circumstances, but think about all the new normals we face in life. There's divorces, there's marriages, there's new kids, there's new dogs. I have a Jack Russell Terrier, absolute whack job. All right? Absolutely crazy. Talk about her every speech I give, basically. But it's all those things. And so you think about job losses, new pet, childbirth, marriage, retirement, all those things that are relevant to us in new normals. So harvest the best and forget the rest. And then forgive the rest. The problem is a lot of people are running through life not letting go of things. Forgive it and let it go. You can only take one carry-on bag on the airplane or it can't take off. Why? Why? Too much weight. Too much weight. The plane can't take off if your baggage is too heavy. So you can't fly in life if your baggage is if you're weighted down with so much baggage. All right? So forgive it and let it go. And there are a lot of times I talk to soldiers about, the thing is, letting go. It's kind of like this. If I have an open hand, what does that represent to you guys? What does the open hand represent? Giving, peace. What does this represent?
Fighting.
Anger, fighting, war, all those things. A dog can even understand this, can't he? All right? A dog can understand this versus this, And an open hand, things flow in, things flow out. Easy come, easy go. Okay? That's the lesson. That's the lesson. So learning to let go of what you're having. And the soldiers I've talked to a lot of times come up to me and said, hey, that whole airplane thing, that was good. Because that you're right. You can't take off. I'm only allowed 2 check baggages and 1 carry-on and 1 personal item, and that's it. I'm like, that's it. Your plane can't take off if you got too much baggage. All right. Base a lot of my writing about the Serenity Prayer. And what I base this upon is the fact that life isn't always fair and God is in charge. And a lot of people have read the first part of the Serenity Prayer, but not the full prayer. So the first part I'll read is, God, let's say it together. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Stop there. Now, we've all heard that, haven't we? Most of us. It's at every Al-Anon meeting. If you've ever been to an Al-Anon meeting or AA meeting or Narc-Anon meetings or Nick-Anon meetings or any of those, it's there. The rest of the prayer is what I saw when I lost my job in 2020. I lost my job because I was laid off and I was basically outsourced in my company. And I came home and I saw somebody post a full Serenity Prayer on their Facebook wall. And I'm going to comment on this. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as a pathway to peace. Ooh, that's good. Accepting hardships as a pathway to peace. That kind of sounds like a new normal. Taking this, as he did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Letting go, right? Trusting that he will make all things right if I surrender to his will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life. Reasonably. I didn't say everything would be figured out and everything was going to be perfect. You guys know that by now. I know you do, right? but everything's going to be okay. And the one thing that I've learned through near-death experiences that I've studied and from studying the Bible and everything that I've gone through in my life is two things. Everything's going to be okay, and that in some weird, messed up way sometimes, everything is as it should be. It doesn't seem like it should be like that sometimes, but how many times have we been through an experience that we get out of that experience and go, oh my God, that was horrible in the middle of that experience, but we get out of it and we go, I'm glad that happened. How many times did that happen to you guys? It's introspective. It's introspective. So I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with Him forever and ever in the next.
Amen.
It's a powerful prayer. That saved me a lot of grieving through my job loss process and finding the job that I'm in right now. Because I didn't understand, what had happened and why it had happened that way and what was going on in my life and what I was going to do about it. But the Serenity Prayer gave me hope, and that's what I based this book on. So the next thing I'm going to show you is, let's see here. This is a quote from Jim Rohn. He's a motivational speaker that passed away back in 2009. He says, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. As Christians, who do we get better through? God, Jesus, that's right. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. Don't wish for less challenge, wish for more wisdom. Ooh. See, so many people we see going through life go, I just wish I had it easier. Well, that's not the point of life, though. It's kind of like the story of the butterfly. If you help the butterfly get out of its cocoon, it can't build up the blood to get its wings to spread and get the blood to its wings. It needs the struggle to win. It needs the struggle to understand. It needs the struggle for the opportunity. This next story I'm going to talk about, I touched upon earlier. This is Steve Gardapi. This isn't Steve. This is the guy that pulled him out of the helicopter in Vietnam. This is Steve's story, his partner. Steve, I put the bullet points up here. Steve was basically shot down in a behind enemy lines in a recovery mission during the Vietnam War in 1970. They were behind enemy lines in a scout helicopter. Story carried Gardapi through the jungle, fighting off enemy fire for 2.5 hours on foot. Okay, because their helicopter crashed. There was no way out of behind enemy lines. All right. Steve dies. Steve bleeds to death. His left arm was almost completely gone. This is a really, it's a little bit gruesome, but basically, Steve understood God in a new way that I've never seen in any other experience. And I asked him if I could tape his experience in 2014. That video is the one that has 1.7 million views. So to show you that Steve is a real person, here's Steve today. That's me, a few pounds heavier. Crosswater Outfitters, and there's my YouTube. That is my #1 YouTube video I've ever done. That's the most proud I've ever been of any YouTube video I've ever done. It's not even the best video I've ever done. It's the one I'm most proud of because it's reached so many people and touched so many lives. And I hope I have my sound and everything right, but Steve's still alive today. He has both arms. That's him giving me a little award at our Crosswater Outfitters Fishing Ministry with their crosswater jackets on. And Steve has a heck of a story I'm going to present to you here in just a second. See if I can do this right. All right.
And as I was dying, I accepted it, and I said, God, this is obviously your will. There's no bargaining anymore. I quit bargaining with him because I knew I was dying. And as I was fading back, all of a sudden, you hear about the bright light. The brightest thing that you can imagine is a dark hole compared to the bright light that I saw. And as I saw that, I started feeling good, and I got Demerol in the hospital, all the things for pain. They can't touch the feeling I was starting to feel. And I'm laying there in this beautiful, bright light, which I described later as it wasn't, God is the light, but He's love. I try to imagine, is He energy? What exactly is God? One thing, He is literally made up of love. And I started feeling that love around me. And as I'm expanding out, I wonder what's going on, and I start feeling this presence. And it was God. And He let me know that He's now surrounding me, protecting me, and I'm expanding out. And now what words I tell you were words, He didn't speak to me. He made His thought known to me. And as I'm expanding out, He said to me in my interpretation, He said, you'll expand out into the cosmos and know all these things. We'll expand out into the cosmos And I was given power that was immeasurably more powerful than I ever imagined God to be. And I was still cocky, I was still myself. I remember kind of puffing my chest up saying, I'm a super God. Not disrespect for God, but I'm a super God. We cannot comprehend what we're going to become. It's immeasurably more powerful than God is, than we think He is. As I'm getting kind of cocky, God made His thought known to me, and He gave me a vision. He's holding me in His hands like a premature infant. And this is what you are. And I'm telling Brian, it's like I'm born again into heaven this time, that He saw me, and I felt His proudness like a parent feels a child when they're first born. And I'm thinking, well, this is confusion. He sees me as a little child. I felt His emotions. I felt He was proud of me. Here's this new infant coming into His world. But I'm still the super God. And then He smiled. I felt Him smile. I felt His amusement. He said, even in this state that you were in as a super God, you cannot begin to comprehend what I am. We can't comprehend what we're going to be, and He's still infinitely more powerful and loving and caring than that. So that kind of put me back in my place. As I'm experiencing all these things, the one that really surprised me was His love. And I'd say take a dictionary and take all the bad words out, regrets, sorrow, fear, embarrassment. They're not there. There is absolutely nothing in heaven that is bad. It's 100% pure love and happiness. All the things that I did in my past, you could remember them, but they were all forgiven. It's like, God, I made you that way for a reason which was not made known to me. And I'm feeling this love, and I tell people His love was so strong, I literally felt it. It's like being in the air when it's calm. You know the air is there, but you can't feel it. But then you soak in a warm bath out of warm water, you can feel that. God's love was so strong, I literally felt it. I felt His presence. And I knew I could be anywhere, and I'm loved, and I was forgiven. And I thought, this isn't a mean, vengeful God. Like I was even telling Brian, I remember the way I grew up, and they said the people cower, and they stand in the back of their church. I'm not worthy of being up front near God. Well, I had good, loving parents. When I met my dad, we'd hug each other. I didn't cower up to my dad. Well, God doesn't want us to cower in front of Him. He created us strictly love. He has one need that I thought I felt. He needs to love. That's why He created all the stuff. He didn't create us so He could lord over us and dominate over us and make us feel inferior. He wants to love us. And I thought, that's not the God that I grew up knowing. I'm not going to be punished for making my mistakes. If I ask God to forgive me, He will. And another thing I saw, that He will not pull you kicking and screaming into heaven. If you don't want to go, you didn't even know, no, but you're not coming. You have to want Him to forgive you and ask Him to forgive you. And He'll bring you, no matter how bad you've been, how horrible you've been, how ashamed of yourself you are, He forgives you. If you just ask for Him to forgive you, He takes you into heaven. And I went back, and the books say sometimes it's a tunnel of light. It's a tunnel of love. The light thing, to me, in my opinion, is a misnomer. You're surrounded strictly by love, and that love is a bright light, so bright that I call it an incredible clearness, because the mind can't comprehend anything that bright. We're that limited. Because no matter how late it is in your life, I'm laid out there in jungles dying, and all of a sudden I get religion. I says, God, forgive me, please, please. I'm sorry for everything I've done. And of course, He forgave me. And I was sincere. It wasn't one of these false promises. But the experience that I got from that is all the little pettiness and what people annoy us and all that. It doesn't mean anything. Compared to what we're going to get, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a little, prick in our side. And I tell people now, I know He will forgive me for what I do, but I'm not going to take it for granted. You can't come up and say, I can sin, therefore I can ask for God's forgiveness. And you have to have the sincerity. And I see something where it's bad. I tell people that give me the wrong change, for example. I say, you gave me the wrong amount of change. And he says, why'd you do that? I said, because He's watching. It's for Him. And the only sadness I felt in heaven, and it wasn't my sadness, it was God's sadness. And His sadness, and it's made known to me, I'm saddened over what you do to each other. When we do things to each other, harm each other, hurt each other, we're not hurting each other. Although we are, we're hurting Him. It saddens Him what we do to each other. He created us all to be wonderful and have a wonderful gift, and sometimes being human, I don't know why we have that weakness. God knows, and it wasn't made known to me, that it hurts him when we hurt each other, we lie from each other, we ridicule each other. That's a direct assault on his emotions. And it changed my life, and that even though I'm still human, I still make my mistakes. I constantly pray to God, give me the strength. I don't want to lose what I saw. I want to be back in your love. And please, just help me be strong. And thank you for everything you've done. Don't take him for granted. And thank you for the blessing he gave me, and that let me be in his presence for, well, there's no time up there, so it was an instant, it was a million years. And I'm here till the next time, and I look forward to going home again.
Pretty powerful. The interesting thing that I've learned about near-death experiences like Steve is that we're here for two main reasons in the physical existence. And I've learned this from reading the Bible. I've learned this from all the work that I've done with NDE research. I believe we're here for two main reasons. You want to hear what they are?
Sure.
We're here to love each other deeply. I think most of us can agree with that. We're here to acquire knowledge for what's next. We're here to acquire knowledge, life experience, and to love deeply. Next slide.
And as I was,
Hold on, there we go. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Steve had a why to live when he came back. And that was one of the things that I enjoyed about his experience, is that God wanted him to go through the experience and basically tell the experience years later. And I was one of the chief people that got him to tell that experience and got him to tell it in different iterations. But, I believe that God used me to bless other people by Steve's message, if that sounds, okay. But basically, that was one of the reasons why I believe I was put here, is to tell people that story. But he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. That's one of the quotes in this book as well, that basically I talk about with the situation with, going through life and just all the different. If you have a reason to live, if you have a reason to get up in the morning, if you have a reason to go after it and get after it, you're going to be fine. I've got some quotes from, I manage the Facebook page for NDE Radio, and I've got a couple of quotes up here. The first one in the upper left-hand corner, "Don't waste your life thinking you're not loved," was a message that Yolene Stout brought back from her near-death experience when she tried to commit suicide. And basically, Jesus told her, don't waste your life thinking you're not loved. Because she was an atheist at the time. And basically, Jesus said, don't waste your life thinking you're not loved. I love that one. Isaiah 43:1, "I will be with you." It's basic paraphrasing. "I will deliver you," in Psalm 50, verse 17. "I will watch over you," in Psalm 32, verse 8. "I will listen to you," in Jeremiah 29:12. The Bible is full of a lot of inspiration. We just have to look for it. "I find joy every day, not because life is always good, but because God is." I love that. "Remember that the happiest people are not those getting more, but those giving more." That's another thing I wanted to leave with you guys with, because that is one of the things that I give of myself, my time, my talents, my treasure, and everything. That's one of the reasons why I, am so overambitious, is I just want to give hope. I want to give hope by the spoonful. I want to give inspiration. I want to give life where I can. So H. Jackson Brown Jr. said that. One of my favorite verses in the Bible, Thessalonians 5:16 through 18. "Rejoice always, pray continuously. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." All circumstances. Even the hard ones, right? Even the ones that are difficult. "Rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." I love that verse. All right, close things out. I've got one today, last thing I'm going to read. This is my little TV show thing I've got on Gen 7 Outdoors. It's called Hogger Boys Outdoors. I designed the mean pig with the red eyes. I love it. Anyway, it's cute. If you're interested in some inspiration like you saw with Steve Gardapi's story, there's a podcast that airs weekly on Mondays called NDE Radio. You can find it on any podcast channel you listen to. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on TalkZone. any place like that. Lee Whitting, Reverend Dr. Lee Whitting, is a host. I've been interviewed by him. Steve Garpey's interviews on there. There's a bunch of other of him actually interviewing Steve about his experience based on my video. Really easy to find on Facebook if you get on Facebook. So there's that. Got a new book coming soon. I'm excited about this. It's called Empowering Resilience. I think that's going to be the working title of it so far. Putting out life's fires and winning one day at a time. That's the name of the new book. And in the book, I talk about one of the stories that is in the book called It's Already Paid For. And this has to do with a situation that I'm in the car with my son Jackson, and he's a few years younger than he is now. He's 12 now, so I think he was probably 8 or 9. And so we're in the car, and I'm listening to a Spotify, because I have to listen to his music sometimes. You know what it is with your grandkids and your kids and stuff. You got to listen to their music sometimes. And there was an ad every 30 minutes. And I was like, about a 5-minute ad. And I was like, Jackson, something's not right here. We have a plan that is ad-free. It's a family plan. And he said, no, Dad, you don't understand. You're old. I have to listen to ads every 30 minutes for 5 minutes so I can get 30 free more minutes of music. And I said, son, you're not listening. I'm not old. You're part of the family plan. I just have to log you in and you get ad-free music, and there's no hoops to jump through or ads to click out of or ads to listen to or any of that stuff. You're part of the family plan. No, Dad, you don't understand. Anyway, we go back and forth with that for a while. Long story short, Jackson finally allows me to log him into our family plan, and he gets ad-free music. Ta-da! It's amazing how that works. Dad was right? But the thing is, it likens back to the experience that we have in Christianity. Our family plan's already been paid for. We just have to log into it. We just have to log into it and get into God's family plan through the salvation, life, death, and resurrection through Jesus Christ. That's the most important message I brought out of that family plan thing, because so many people go through life trying to jump through hoops and click on ads and all this stuff, all these works they've got to do to basically get, you're part of the family plan already. You just have to accept the gift. And that's the interesting thing about a gift, is you have to accept it. You have to accept the gift to be able to receive it. And so that's the salvation plan that I talk about in which we all know about, but I liken it to that story of my son with the Spotify app. I thought that was too cute. All right, if you're looking for me, I'm easy to find in social media, dustinsprojects.com. Some of this stuff's outdated. There's no Google Plus anymore, but I've got a YouTube and a Vimeo, and Steve Garpey's video is on my YouTube account. So you can just search my name or go to dustinsprojects.com and see all that. And thank you very much. I've got books for sale. They're normally, like I say, $14 or $15 on Amazon. They're $10 today. I've got change, so no worries about that. If you would like to purchase a copy, they're on the back table by those lovely jams. There's one last thing I'm going to close with, and that is a song by Colton Dixon that I close every one of my devotions with. And this is one of my best favorite Christian songs ever. It's called All That Matters. The lyrics go like this: I've tasted hopelessness. I know what heartache is. Somehow through all of it, your love remains. I've lived through brokenness, feeling faceless. I'm not anonymous. You know my name. And the hook is, your word is a light unto my feet. Your love is my identity. You've counted every breath, each hair upon my head. You know exactly who I am and will always. So I stand with confidence on all your promises. Your love is evidence. You know my name. The chorus goes like this: all that matters is that you make all things new. There's no disaster that you cannot undo. This world will fade and life will change, and all of this is true. But all that matters is that I matter to you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dustin.